teach middle school. I chose Canva for my professional development because I wanted to give teachers a new resource that could easily be used in their classrooms. Only one of the 15 teachers in my PD session was familiar with Canva. My main learning objectives for my session were helping teachers navigate Canva while being able to create resources and assign projects to their students. I also wanted to review the CRAP principles of graphic design to show how to create good-looking and useful graphics. In this first clip, I review how to find some of the pre-made resources that are on Canva. So I'll show you the presentations first. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the presentations. The main thing I want to show you is for some things, like there's stuff created here. And I saw a few good ones as I was clicking through. So as soon as I click on it, it gives you all these options off to the side. And you can kind of scroll through all the different topics. And there's math, there's science, there's music, there's technology, there's health, there's art, there's computer, education, there's all these different things that you can click on, and they're already made. So if I click on science, and I know like when I teach chemistry, I actually go over states of matter. So when I click on this, there's 11 slides already created on states of matter. And so if I click on this, I can apply all 11 pages, and I have a presentation that has learning objectives and goes through solids, liquids, gases, plasma, and then has a summary at the end. And I can edit any of this. All this stuff here, you can change the definitions, you can change the pictures.
Does it change it for you, or does it change it for anyone else who might be looking at it?
Just that's yours. Once you click on it, you're clicking on that template, and you can edit that. Now that's your presentation. So, right, so once I click on this, I'm basically saying I want to use this template. If I change this, this is mine. So when I go back to my home, and I'm going to have a lot of stuff, it would be this first one because I didn't title it. But when I click on that, it would take me right back into what I was working on. In this next clip, I showed how to create an infographic using the provided templates and from a blank document. The main thing I'm going over today is the infographics. So if you can click on that, you should have access to infographics whether you have a free account or a paid account.
Is it education infographic?
Yeah, they're all about the same. It doesn't really matter which one you click on, because once you get in, yours will say education here, and you can just click an X and it'll give you all the options. And it's kind of the same thing. There's so many things made here that can be used. I mean, there's one about Earth, and you can use the templates and change things, or, I mean, astronomy. I mean, I click on these. There's so many things that are just already made that I could give my students to look over and to read, and it covers, I mean, they look great and they got great information on them. I like to kind of click on these and just modify them. And kind of like, I use this one right here. If I click on this one, I'll show you. This one right here is the one I use, and I'll show you what I changed this into what we're going to go over in just a few minutes, which are the CRAP principles, which are like principles of graphic design. And I just modified it. I changed the pictures, I changed the words there, I put my own definitions, and I was done in 5 minutes. It took me no time at all, and it kind of already follows. The great thing about them are they're designed with these principles in mind, where they look good, you can read them, they flow, they make sense, and they kind of hit all these principles that I'm going to go over with you in just a couple minutes. One of my favorite things to do with Canva is to allow my students to create infographics. I showed the teachers in my session how to import their students into their class, and then this next clip, I show them how I most recently used Canva in my classroom. And what I do is whenever I gave them an assignment, and so if I get like infographic, it gives me this blank thing. And when I assigned it to my students, I just assigned them a blank document. I gave them no template or nothing on there, and I let them kind of go through and pick what template they wanted to use. And we were doing it on different scientists, and I've always done this poster, and years past I didn't do it on paper, and it just took them forever, and they didn't look good, and it's kind of like a waste of time, but it was kind of what our curriculum document said we were supposed to do. And so this year I gave them to them on Canva, and I just got, they made these in less than a class period, and they just look and I'll show you one of the ones on paper. They just look a whole lot better. They're very clean. And what I did is I hang these around the room, and then they do one poster, and then they went around and took notes on everyone else's posters. Because they had to know all the scientists, but instead of reading up and doing the research on all of them, they did the research on their one poster, on their one scientist, and then they were able to kind of get the contributions from all the others. And these are I just printed these out. Some of these are good, some of them are obviously not as great, and you know you're always going to get that from you know, any assignment. So this is kind of one that I had before, that they did on a piece of paper, and it's just, they write really tiny, it's kind of hard to read, there's not a lot of information on there, and it was just and they spent way longer on this than they did on this. This next clip builds on the student aspect of Canva, and I go over how to create and grade an assignment. So when I assign something, again, you can get any template you want. All I did, it's real simple. I create a blank template. I hit share. It tells you right here, there's your Google Classroom option. And then you just walk through your normal steps on how to assign something on Google Classroom. So I would choose a class, create an assignment, and then title it, and then there it is. It's gonna link them to a blank design, and when they click on it, it would make a copy for every single one of them. So just like on Google Classroom where you hit like create a copy, this would make, so when they open it up, that's their copy. So I hit share, Google Classroom, and just followed those prompts. And then they went through, they picked these templates, and there's all these other things they can do and edit things. They can create, I had some of them create their own. They just used all of the options here. They uploaded their own pictures. They put their own text, they changed the background, they added elements, and they made their own poster. And then I had other ones who you can usually tell, like this one, they just clicked on a template, because I have two of the same template, and they used a template. So once you assign it and they access it, they can complete it, and then they just would click share as well, and that's where they turn it in, and they can hit turn it on Canva, and it has other options, and I'll show you where to check it. So when you go back to your home screen, obviously you guys aren't gonna have any work unless you've done this before, but I would just click on right there where it says classwork. And here's what I see. I can see the person who turned it in, and then what they titled it. And I let them work with a partner on this, and for some reason, if you're working, they share it. Just like on Google Classroom, where you can share something and work on it together at the same time, you can do that on Canva. And that's what I had them do. They clicked share, they typed in their partner's email address, and then they both had access to it. The only problem with that is, and I won't use Canva again to turn it in on. I'll have them turn it on Google Classroom because it only lets one person turn it in. So if they both turn it in, it'll tell you it turned in, but it won't. It'll just show one person. So I had them put them in their partner's name here, so I could easily tell, okay, yeah, Zalika turned it in, but Zalika worked with Cameron. And I was able to click on their name and grade that. So some of them, work by themselves, and so that's why there's only one name, but anyone else, put them in their partner's name on there. And in this last clip, I spent time going over the CRAP principles and how both teachers and students can use these principles to create more appealing and effective graphics. So the last thing that I have to talk about is something that we learned about is the CRAP principles of graphic design. And I'll kind of zoom in on these. And this is just kind of what to keep in mind if you're designing an infographic. Yeah, it's a great name.
I thought it was geared you wrong.
What? No, it's the CRAP. Yeah, CRAP principles. This is what we learned about. Principles of graphic design, and just what to keep in mind when you're designing something or your students are designing something. And I think a lot of us, we do this. This is kind of how a lot of us if something looks good, then usually it's following these principles. But sometimes students don't necessarily keep these things in mind, and things are hard to read. They have a dark font on a dark background, and for some reason they like doing stuff like that. And this is just something that you can share with them, and I'll send this out too if you guys want this, to show your students or for them to keep in mind. That you want contrast, and contrast can be colors, it can be text, it can be shapes, it can be anything kind of that draws the eye to where you want to be, that things kind of pop out. So you want your title obviously to be larger font than the text below it. That's something that maybe 7th graders or 8th graders, 6th graders don't think about, but usually, adults are gonna know, yeah, my title should be bigger than my text underneath it. And that would be contrast, because you're contrasting text size. The next thing is repetition. Repeating colors, repeating text, repeating graphics. And this is what I love using the templates for, because it does repetition. Every single thing on here, it repeats the same thing. Instead of using all different shapes and different fonts and different titles, it's the same thing every time. And it just makes it easy to follow, it's appealing to the eye, and just kind of makes it, look a whole lot nicer. And then what I did, a lot of times repeating colors is big, because when I changed this graphic around and I changed these pictures. Those weren't the original pictures that were on there. And I have the option when I do it, I click on the picture and I change, and it's hard to see here, but the picture's not black, it's the same color as what the background is, which is like a navy blue. So instead of having a black picture on a navy background, they're both navy, and so it just kind of looks a whole lot nicer. It's a small little detail, but I'm repeating that background color in my graphic instead of just leaving it black. And then alignment. This is obviously, some people take this too far, because there is some obviously being kind of creative and kind of placing things around and not just having like square, 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 square. But you want to make sure things are aligned, that they're intentionally positioned and not kind of just all over the place. I think most of these students did a pretty good job with that, of making sure that things are kind of aligned. But that's just making sure, like here, like making sure this box is aligned with that box and that one's not. That if you just kind of scoot that over and have all of those lines go straight down, it would look a lot better. And things that maybe they don't keep in mind, like here, all of those lines are kind of aligned, they're a straight line down. So that would be kind of alignment, making sure text are aligned. Same thing here, my text boxes, they all end at the same place. My pictures are all aligned in a straight line. So that would be alignment. And the last thing would be proximity, and just making sure that things that are related to each other are just near each other. So that my definition for proximity is near the word proximity. And I'm not just putting definitions and words kind of all over the place. And I think we've all seen probably graphics before where you look at it, and when you read the words, you don't know which word to read first, and then kind of it just makes no sense. Overall, I felt like my session went well, and I was able to cover all of my learning objectives. I've already had a few teachers reach out to me with questions about Canva and how they plan on using it in their classroom.